the NAALDLOOSHI. The proper Diné, or Navajo, term for the entity popularly known as a skinwalker is NAALDLOOSHI, a name which translates with chilling precision to "with it, he goes on all fours." This specific phrasing is not a casual descriptor, but a foundational definition, indicating a being that has willfully abandoned its humanity to adopt an animalistic form and method of movement. Within the structure of Diné belief, the NAALDLOOSHI is never classified as a cryptid, a spirit, or a naturally occurring monster because its origins are entirely human. It is, by definition, a powerful witch who has deliberately chosen a path of evil, using sacred knowledge for personal gain, malevolence, and the infliction of suffering upon others. This absolute distinction from other paranormal entities is crucial, as the NAALDLOOSHI represents a perversion of the natural order and a corruption of healing traditions. Unlike a ghost, which is a lingering echo of the dead, or a creature like Bigfoot, which is perceived as an undiscovered species, the skinwalker is a living person who actively commits heinous acts to acquire their supernatural abilities, a concept that introduces a layer of very personal, human-driven horror. The source of the terror it inspires, therefore, comes not from the unknown, but from the known, the terrifying potential for a human being to consciously forsake their community and embrace a life of pure malevolence. The deliberate choice to become a NAALDLOOSHI separates it from nearly every other legend, which necessitates a deeper examination of the specific, forbidden rituals involved in this transformation. The dark path. The path to becoming a NAALDLOOSHI begins with the commission of an unspeakable act, one that fundamentally violates the most sacred bonds of family and community. Tradition dictates that the initiation requires the candidate to commit the ultimate taboo, the murder of a close blood relative, such as a sibling or parent. This singular, horrific act serves as the definitive price of admission, irrevocably severing the individual from the principles of Hoju, or balance and harmony. By embracing this level of violence against their own kin, the initiate proves their complete rejection of societal good and their readiness to wield power for purely malevolent purposes. This act therefore functions as a dark sacrament, perverting the potential for healing medicine into a source of destructive evil. Upon completing this irreversible transgression, the newly anointed witch is not a solitary figure, but is instead welcomed into a secret society of other malevolent practitioners. This collective, often meeting at night in remote locations, serves as a dark coven where forbidden knowledge is shared and malevolent plots are coordinated. Within this circle, members pool their powers, assist one another in curses, and reinforce their shared commitment to the perversion of traditional Navajo ways. The existence of this organized network elevates the threat from that of a single individual to a coordinated conspiracy against the community, a chilling thought that the evil is not just random, but organized and collaborative. This organized structure allows them to master their newly acquired powers, specifically their infamous ability of physical transformation, the animal PELT. The transformation into a NAALDLOOSHI is not an innate power, but is instead accomplished through the use of a key ritualistic item, the skin of an animal. To initiate the metamorphosis, the witch dons the cured PELT, wearing it like a sacred and terrifying cloak that blurs the line between the human and the beast. The most common animal forms reported in oral traditions include the coyote, wolf, fox, and owl, creatures chosen for their specific attributes of cunning, ferocity, or stealth. The act of wearing the skin is therefore not merely a disguise, but a conduit through which the witch channels the animal's spirit and harnesses its physical capabilities for their own dark intentions. Further accounts within the lore describe a more disturbing and visceral version of the transformation process, one that requires more than just the hide. In these specific tellings, the witch is said to wear the entire hollowed-out body of the animal like a macabre suit, literally stepping inside the creature to animate its form. This detail elevates the act from a symbolic ritual to a grotesque physical violation, suggesting a complete usurpation of the animal's being, a concept that firmly grounds the legend in visceral body horror. The choice of animal directly corresponds to the abilities the witch seeks to acquire, from the endurance of a wolf to the nocturnal sight of an owl. This mastery over physical form grants the witch access to a range of terrifying powers, allowing them to terrorize communities with supernatural speed, strength, and mimicry. Impossible speed. Numerous first-hand accounts from the American Southwest describe encounters where a creature paces vehicles traveling at highway speeds. Witnesses consistently report seeing the NAALDLOOSHI running effortlessly alongside their cars, sometimes reaching speeds in excess of 60 miles per hour while remaining unnervingly upright on two legs. This bipedal locomotion, combined with such impossible velocity, creates a profound sense of cognitive dissonance for those who observe it. The entity moves without any sign of fatigue or strain, its gait described as fluid, yet profoundly unnatural for its monstrous form, allowing it to keep up with modern technology through sheer biological power. Beyond its linear speed, the NAALDLOOSHI demonstrates a level of agility that defies the known laws of physics and biology. Encounter stories frequently include details of the creature leaping over vast obstacles such as deep canyons or tall cliffs in a single, impossible bound that no known animal could replicate. This incredible athleticism is often paired with an even more baffling ability, the power to vanish from sight in an instant, a trait that makes pursuit or retaliation entirely futile. One moment a witness tracks the creature's terrifying progress, and the next it has vanished completely, leaving no sound or physical evidence of its departure. This combination of untraceable speed and instantaneous disappearance makes it an exceptionally effective agent of terror, capable of striking without warning and escaping without a trace. This suite of incredible physical abilities allows the skinwalker to hunt and corner its victims with terrifying efficiency, enabling its true purpose, the deployment of dark magic and corpse poison. Glowing eyes. Despite its mastery over physical transformation, the NAALDLOOSHI reportedly cannot conceal one specific and damning feature, its malevolent, glowing eyes. Even when fully cloaked in an animal's form, eyewitnesses consistently report seeing profoundly human-like eyes staring back from within the beast's head. This detail creates a deeply unsettling visual because it merges the familiar anatomy of a predator with the unmistakable gaze of a sentient, human consciousness. These eyes are said to emit an unnatural, self-generated luminescence, often described as a burning red, a vibrant orange, or a sickly yellow hue that signifies the corrupted spirit within. This signature trait therefore serves as the ultimate telltale sign, allowing an observer to distinguish a true animal from the supernatural witch wearing its form. Whereas an ordinary coyote or wolf possesses eyes that reflect ambient light, the NAALDLOOSHI's eyes burn with their own internal fire, independent of any external light source. The consistency of this detail across generations of oral history and modern encounters is what gives the phenomenon such terrifying credibility. The horror of the glowing eyes is rooted in the recognition of a calculating mind peering out from a monstrous visage, the moment you realize it's not just a beast, but a person hunting you. This unmistakable feature is the final warning before the witch employs its more insidious powers, particularly the curse delivered through its direct gaze. Voice. Mimicry. Among its most terrifying abilities, the NAALDLOOSHI possesses the power of perfect vocal mimicry, allowing it to replicate human sounds with flawless and disturbing accuracy. It is widely reported that the witch can imitate the specific voice of a friend or family member calling out to a victim from the darkness in a tone they are conditioned to trust. A particularly common tactic involves the creature producing the sound of a crying infant, a distressing noise engineered to exploit the listener's instinct to help. The singular purpose of this deception is to generate enough curiosity or concern to persuade an individual to investigate the source, thereby luring them out of the safety of their home. This insidious ability is the foundational reason behind a critical cultural rule observed throughout the region. Never answer an unknown call from the night. To respond to the voice, or worse, to call back to it, is believed to grant the witch power over the individual, creating a supernatural connection it can then exploit. The ultimate goal is to get the target to unlatch and open their door, physically removing the last barrier between themselves and the malevolent entity. The true horror of this tactic is its manipulation of empathy, turning a person's compassion into their own potential downfall. This tactic of vocal mimicry is specifically designed to draw a person into striking distance, making them vulnerable to the skinwalker's most infamous form of magical attack, the corpse poison. Home invasion. The NAALDLOOSHI often initiates its attack with a prolonged period of surveillance, stalking a chosen family for days or even weeks to learn their routines and vulnerabilities. This psychological warfare then escalates into direct harassment, characterized by persistent tapping on windows, scratching sounds on exterior walls, and the unnerving noise of footsteps on the roof. These disturbances are methodical and deliberate, intended to create an atmosphere of constant anxiety while testing the home's structural and spiritual defenses. The terror reaches a new peak when the witch reveals itself, with multiple accounts describing the horrifying sight of a monstrous figure peering down through a window from the impossible vantage point of the roof. This campaign of terror serves a dual purpose, functioning as both a practical assessment of the home's security and a brutal test of the occupant's psychological resolve. The witch systematically probes for any physical weaknesses, such as an unlocked door or an open window, searching for an exploitable entry point into the sanctuary. Meanwhile, the constant auditory and visual threats are engineered to erode the family's courage, hoping to induce the kind of panic that leads to a fatal mistake. The goal is to break the inhabitant's spirit long before breaking down the door, turning their own home into a source of inescapable dread, a tactic that transforms a haunting into a calculated personal siege. This relentless assault is designed to create an opening, because getting close to its victims is essential for the witch to deploy its most feared weapon, the corpse poison. Corpse powder. The primary magical weapon of the NAALDLOOSHI is a potent substance known within Diné culture as angti, which is more commonly referred to as corpse poison or corpse powder. This is not a naturally occurring toxin, but a meticulously crafted magical agent created by grinding the bones of the dead with a particular emphasis on the remains of infants. The use of infant bones is a deliberate choice, as it represents the most extreme violation of life and innocence, thereby infusing the powder with a profound spiritual malevolence. The witch administers this poison by loading the fine dust into a tube or hollow reed and blowing it directly into the mouth, nose, or face of an unsuspecting victim. Once the angti enters the victim's system, it does not cause a quick death, but instead initiates a slow, agonizing, and wasting sickness that medical science cannot diagnose or treat. The afflicted individual experiences a gradual decline in health, suffering from symptoms that can range from chronic pain and fatigue to deep psychological distress and spiritual despair. This poison works by embedding a fragment of dark magic deep within the person's body and spirit, slowly corrupting them from the inside out and severing their connection to balance and life. The horror lies in its insidious nature, a fatal illness with no discernible physical cause. Because the affliction is fundamentally supernatural, conventional medicine proves entirely ineffective, forcing a victim's family to seek the aid of a traditional DNA healer to fight the curse. Highway 666. The stretch of road once designated U.S. Route 666, now renumbered as U.S. Route 491, runs directly through tribal lands in New Mexico, Colorado, and Utah. For decades, this lonely highway earned the ominous nickname the Devil's Highway due to its disproportionately high number of fatal accidents and paranormal reports. The route has become a notorious hotspot for roadside skinwalker encounters, with countless travelers reporting creatures keeping pace with their vehicles at impossible speeds. These repeated sightings solidified the highway's reputation as a place where the barrier between the natural and supernatural worlds feels dangerously thin, attracting both morbid curiosity and genuine fear from drivers. Over the years, dozens of unexplained single-vehicle accidents along the route have been attributed by witnesses and local residents to a figure darting into the road. This entity, described as being neither fully human nor fully animal, appears in the headlights for a brief, terrifying moment before vanishing, causing drivers to lose control in a state of pure panic. The sheer volume of these reports, combined with the highway's original number and its grim accident statistics, created a powerful modern folklore surrounding the road. This notoriety became so pervasive that officials in 2003 formally redesignated the highway to U.S. Route 491 in an effort to shed its dark reputation, a government action acknowledging the powerful influence of local legend. The sheer volume of incidents along the Devil's Highway reinforces the tangible threat the NAALDLOOSHI poses, necessitating the use of specific spiritual countermeasures. Skinwalker Ranch. The property famously known as Skinwalker Ranch is located in Utah's Uinta Basin, which is the traditional and sovereign territory of the Ute tribe, not the Navajo. The name itself is a modern label applied by non-native paranormal investigators seeking a framework for the phenomena, rather than a term originating from Ute tradition. This remote location achieved international notoriety because of the Sherman family, who owned the ranch from 1994 to 1996 and reported a relentless 2-year siege of bizarre and threatening events. The family's accounts, which were meticulously documented by journalist George Knapp, included everything from UFOs and widespread cattle mutilation to direct encounters with a massive, bulletproof wolf-like creature. The persistent connection to a Navajo legend in Ute territory stems from a specific narrative of historical intertribal conflict. According to this lore, the Navajo tribe, after being displaced by the Utes, retaliated by placing a curse upon the land in the form of multiple NAALDLOOSHI. In turn, the Utes allegedly used their own powerful medicine to enact a counter-curse, effectively trapping the malevolent entities within the geographic confines of the property, turning it into a supernatural prison. This story therefore explains the highly concentrated and localized nature of the paranormal activity reported there, a chilling explanation for why the horror seems contained to one specific piece of land. The intense, concentrated phenomena at the ranch, attributed to this historical curse, forces any inhabitant to consider methods of spiritual defense. The human form. In its natural state, the NAALDLOOSHI appears to be an ordinary person, capable of moving undetected within its own community during daylight hours. This social camouflage is a primary asset, because it allows the witch to observe potential victims, plan its attacks, and foster an environment of deep paranoia where anyone could be a hidden monster. However, oral traditions consistently mention a subtle but persistent giveaway. Observers report that the individual's eyes look wrong or far away, possessing a vacant, predatory quality that betrays the human disguise. This is not a simple physical anomaly, but is understood as the cold, malevolent spirit of the witch peering out from behind a human mask. Beyond these subtle physical tells, certain social and economic markers are also associated with those who practice this dark magic. A person suspected of being a NAALDLOOSHI is often described as possessing considerable wealth with no discernible or legitimate source of income, as this prosperity is believed to be gained through fees for curses or the magical theft of others' vitality. Because of their deceptive appearance, the definitive identification of a witch falls to a trained specialist, specifically a Diné medicine man or Hatawi. Through the use of powerful and sacred ceremonies, a medicine man can expose the witch's true nature, a dangerous undertaking as it invites direct retaliation from the witch and their kin. The successful identification of a skinwalker is the crucial first step because it allows a family to employ specific countermeasures for protection. White ash. White ash serves as a primary form of spiritual protection within Diné tradition for defending against a NAALDLOOSHI intrusion. Families utilize this substance by carefully sprinkling a complete, unbroken line of it around the entire perimeter of their home, creating a powerful defensive ward. This is not merely a symbolic gesture because the ash is believed to establish a tangible spiritual barrier that the corrupted entity cannot physically cross. The protective power of the ash stems from the belief that its purity causes it to burn the skin of the witch upon direct contact, inflicting intense pain and repelling its advance. This simple, sacred material therefore provides a potent and accessible form of defense against a supernatural siege. Beyond its use as a stationary barrier, white ash can also be weaponized to inflict direct harm upon the NAALDLOOSHI. Oral traditions specify that bullets dipped in white ash are one of the few methods capable of injuring or even killing the creature in its transformed state. This tactic is considered necessary because the witch is frequently reported to be impervious to conventional firearms, with normal bullets having little to no effect. By coating the projectile in ash, the sacred material is delivered directly into the witch's body, circumventing its magical defenses and causing a grievous, supernatural wound, a desperate measure that requires getting dangerously close to the entity. The practice of enchanting ammunition demonstrates a shift from passive defense to active and often necessary confrontation. The use of white ash as both a defensive barrier and an offensive weapon provides a critical tool for survival, but this raises the question of what happens when a NAALDLOOSHI is successfully injured or killed. The wound reveal. Injuring a NAALDLOOSHI while it is in its animal form produces a terrifying and immediate supernatural consequence known as the wound reveal. The law states that if the creature is struck, shot, or otherwise wounded in its transformed state, the injury immediately transfers to the human witch within the next 24 hours. For example, if a witness manages to shoot the animal in the leg, the following day, a person in the community will appear with a corresponding identical wound. This direct and indelible link between the transformed state and the human body functions as a horrifying identification system because it is impossible for the witch to conceal the transferred injury. This supernatural transfer of the wound is the definitive way a NAALDLOOSHI's identity can be exposed to the community because a normal human cannot explain the sudden appearance of a matching injury in their home. The witch's immediate need for secrecy and the difficulty of explaining a major physical trauma ensures that their efforts to hide their true identity become futile. This consequence serves as a powerful deterrent against attacks because a direct confrontation risks exposure and the inevitable retribution from the community, a moment of grim satisfaction for those who successfully injure the creature. The wound reveal demonstrates the vulnerability of the NAALDLOOSHI, establishing the conditions for the final catastrophic confrontation. Speaking their name. A grave and consequential taboo exists within Diné culture against speaking the name NAALDLOOSHI aloud, particularly after dark. This prohibition is rooted in the firm belief that vocalizing the term acts as a supernatural beacon, directly attracting the attention of any such witches who might be nearby. By saying the name, an individual acknowledges the creature's existence, a signal that the NAALDLOOSHI interprets as a direct challenge or an invitation for contact. The act therefore transforms a person from a passive observer into an active target, compelling the entity to investigate the source of the summons with malevolent intent. This foundational belief is the primary reason why many traditional Diné people are profoundly hesitant to discuss the topic in detail, especially with those outside their community. To speak openly about the creature's attributes and activities is seen as a reckless act of inviting danger, essentially painting a target on oneself and one's family. The pervasive silence surrounding the NAALDLOOSHI is therefore a form of active spiritual defense, a conscious and practical measure to avoid drawing the gaze of a predator that is known to hunt by sound and recognition, a cultural practice often misunderstood as secrecy when it is, in fact, a survival strategy. This powerful taboo against speaking its name is a critical form of community defense, but it raises the stakes for when a confrontation becomes unavoidable, forcing the question of the ultimate death. Modern distortion. The widespread accessibility of the Internet has fundamentally distorted the concept of the skinwalker, transforming it from a specific cultural entity into a generic online monster. In countless forums and social media threads, the NAALDLOOSHI is frequently and incorrectly confused with other legendary creatures, most notably the Wendigo of Algonquian lore, despite their completely separate origins and meanings. This constant misidentification strips the legend of its crucial Diné cultural context, divorcing the entity from the intricate system of belief, morality, and taboo that actually defines it. As a result, what was once a specific type of human witch who perverts sacred medicine becomes just another vaguely defined cryptid in the public imagination. This digital appropriation has therefore created a shallow, commercialized version of the skinwalker that bears little resemblance to the authentic traditions that birthed it. A significant consequence of this online distortion is the erosion of genuine first-hand accounts, which are now lost in a vast sea of fictional internet horror stories known as creepypasta. This flood of fabricated content makes it nearly impossible for an outside observer to differentiate between authentic oral history and a scary story written purely for entertainment. Because the term is now applied so broadly to any strange creature, the profound spiritual weight and genuine terror associated with the NAALDLOOSHI are severely diluted for a mass audience, trivializing what is, for many, a very real and present danger. The ultimate irony is that a creature whose name is taboo to speak is now one of the most spoken about monsters online. The true nature of the NAALDLOOSHI, a human being who chooses profound evil, is therefore obscured by its own internet-fueled fame, burying a deeply serious cultural belief under layers of digital fiction. The enduring warning. Ultimately, the lore of the NAALDLOOSHI is not a simple monster story, but a profound and cautionary tale about the enemy from within one's own community. The narrative functions as a potent social warning, illustrating the catastrophic consequences that arise from unchecked jealousy, insatiable greed, and the deliberate violation of sacred taboos. These negative human impulses are presented as the gateway to this dark path, directly leading an individual to forsake their kinship and communal responsibilities for personal power. Therefore, the legend serves as a crucial cultural mechanism for reinforcing the Diné principles of Hojo, or balance, by demonstrating the ultimate spiritual decay that follows selfish actions. It is a story that instills a deep and necessary vigilance, reminding people that evil can wear a familiar face. The NAALDLOOSHI thus embodies the ultimate corruption of human potential, representing the horrifying outcome when sacred knowledge is deliberately inverted for malevolent purposes. Unlike a natural predator or a restless spirit, the witch is a being of conscious choice, having actively traded its humanity for the power to inspire terror and inflict suffering. The entire legend is built upon this foundation of agency, making the horror deeply personal and immediate, a truth that makes this legend far more unsettling than any tale of a mindless beast. The enduring power of the story, therefore, comes from its stark and uncomfortable lesson about the nature of evil. It serves as a timeless and necessary reminder that the most terrifying monsters are not those that crawl from the darkness, but are instead the ones we create ourselves. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.